All right. Buenas noches. Good evening. Good evening. Thank you so much for being here tonight with us. We know that you have a choice. We know that everyone is busy with family, with life, but we have a great opportunity and we wanted to share with the Latino community. Queríamos estar aquí con ustedes. So tonight we're here with myself, Veronica Cool. I am in Maryland. I'm a Latina community leader, business owner, and I am very, very proud to be here today with a slew of fellow Latino leaders, but a very, very prestigious panel of experts. And this is such an important topic that we wanted to bring it to our community. So we're going to give it a couple of minutes because we just opened up the lines and I know our folks are dialing in. So we're going to let folks tune in. I'm going to give it a second because también tenemos interpretación disponible en español. Tenemos intérpretes en español. Cuando usted entre en este canal de Zoom, va a ver un mundo debajo en la pantallita. Por favor, tope el mundito, seleccione el idioma que quiere oír para que oiga el español. So we offer Spanish interpretation completamente gratis. Tiene que seleccionar el idioma que quiere oír. You have to pick the language of Spanish para lo que la presentación se haga en español. While the language is being spoken, you can hear it in your own language. So please tune in, select the language you want to hear, English or Spanish, and then you will hear it in Spanish. So we're starting in a minute or so while folks are dialing in. And then we'll let folks introduce themselves. But right now you are tuning in into Cannabis, which is the opportunities for Latino businesses in the state of Maryland. There's so much going on in Maryland, but July 1, there'll be many, many changes, lots of changes. Pero en particular para los negocios latinos, que se empieza en julio 1. Ok, la gente está entrando. Veo aquí a muchos, pero muchos amigos. Veo aquí a muchos amigos. Saludo Pedro Palomino. Ay, veo a Carlos. This is like a family reunion. This is beautiful. This is beautiful. So I would like to introduce a sister of the heart. Couldn't go far in Maryland without getting the support and the encouragement of one of my dearest sisters, Delegate Jocelyn Peña-Melnick. Te la presento. Jocelyn, would you like to introduce yourself, please? And I'd like you to say what you do and also why this is such an important event that you wanted us to get it done before July 1st.
And thank you so much, Veronica. It is an honor and a blessing to be with you, my sister from the heart, and with this esteemed panelists. And thank you for everyone that made the time to be here today. It is, and my name is Jocelyn Peña-Melnick, Jocelyn. I am actually the chairman of the Maryland Health and Government Operations Committee. So I serve in the House in Maryland, one of 141. And I actually was able to vote on this law. And this is important to me today to be here because I want our community to know the law. I want them to know what it says, you know, how not to violate it, most importantly, but what are the opportunities that we have that usually our community is not present when these licenses are granted. And there is a lot of money to be made, but we also want it to be enforced responsibly. And you can only do that when you know the law. So that's what we want to do today. Thank you so much for having me.
Very nice. Muchísimas gracias, delegada. Thank you so very much. Next on our panel, I'd like to introduce very newly announced Special Secretary Yolanda Maria Martinez. Yolanda Maria Martinez has been a community leader in Maryland for years, 35, 40 years. She has been a very generous volunteer, a philanthropist forever. And just last week, Governor Westmore announced that Yolanda Maria Martinez had accepted a position in his cabinet. So Yolanda Maria, I welcome you to the panel, and I'd love to have you introduce yourself and talk briefly about your new role and how that can help not just Latino businesses, not just immigrant businesses, but the swath of women-owned, immigrant, minority businesses. Bienvenida, hermana.
Muchas gracias. Thank you, Veronica. It's such an honor to be here with all of you today. I'm truly honored for this opportunity from the governor. And I have to tell you that last week I had the opportunity to meet the team at GOSBA, as it's known, the governor's office of small minority and women business affairs. It is an incredibly dynamic team. And these are individuals who really understand what it takes to get the work done. And now that we have such a great opportunity with our governor, in addition to the secretaries and their departments, we're really going to make some impact to the minority business world, women business world, small business world, veteran business world overall. So we're very excited, and thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Ay, qué rico, qué rico. And something that's really, really important to acknowledge, and we've been talking about this forever, is you can't be somewhere if we don't have the right representation. So without women, minority women, women of color, women, period, at the table, speaking for fellow Latinos, fellow ladies, we don't get ahead. So representation matters. So having allies, having voices like yours, like Delegate Jocelyn, is how we get ahead. So we're over the moon que por fin tenemos la representación así con ustedes. So congratulations, Special Secretary. It's an honor to say that. Ta-da! Love hearing that. Awesome, awesome, awesome. And then we have an ally. Really excited to have. We have Will Tabor. Am I saying your name right? I want to butcher it so bad, and I have all this background noise, so forgive me. William Tilburg. He is with the newly minted Cannabis Administration. So I know you've been going crazy with not only the law changing, but you are creating a new administration, new advisory boards. You have like 87 new positions on top of making recreational marijuana legal for adults. So Will, I'd love for you to join us, introduce yourself, because you have a wealth of information you want to share, not just for businesses, but for individuals in Maryland as well.
Good evening. Thank you, Veronica. Thank you to the caucus and Chairman Pena Melnick for the invitation tonight. And Veronica, I need to take you with me when I present anywhere. That was, you just pumped me up. You can't sell it any better. As you said, Will Tilburg, I'm the last month, Governor Moore appointed me as the acting director of the new Maryland Cannabis Administration, which is the regulatory body that will oversee the expanded medical and adult use market. What Chairman Pena Melnick said about wanting to learn the law, that's what I'm here for. We're going to talk about what the Cannabis Reform Act did and what opportunities will be coming down the pike here in the next several months. So thank you again for having me.
That's awesome. So excited because there's so much to do. So let me take a little logistical break here for a second. I'm going to go into Spanish for my friends that are on the line in Spanish. Hermanos, vamos a dar una presentación en inglés, gracias al director Will, que la va a presentar en inglés. Tenemos interpretación gratis, gracias a María Pilar Rodríguez con su negocio de NPR Business Solutions. So María Pilar Rodríguez and her business have graciously sponsored this event, and they're offering free Spanish interpretation. Para acceder la interpretación en español, usted tiene que seleccionar el idioma. Así que está metido en el Zoom, hay un mundo, una imagen del mundo, tope ese botoncito, seleccione el idioma de español, para en lo que se habla en inglés, no va a oír usted el inglés ya más, se va a cambiar el idioma y usted va a oír el español. Así que por favor, sigan las instrucciones, miren la pantallita de su Zoom, van a ver usted ahí el idioma en español, cámbienlo y María Pilar, van a oír la voz de ella, gracias a ella, ustedes van a oír todo lo que se esté comunicando en español. Cualquier pregunta que usted tenga en español, en inglés, mal hablado, bien hablado, póngala en el comentario y con muchísimo gusto nosotros mismos las respondemos. So if you would like to access Spanish, you can click on the globe. We're having Spanish interpretation available. Now, we will have any of your questions answered. Please communicate on the chat. This is only an hour long. There is so much opportunity available to the entire state of Maryland. This is geared for Latinos, so we know we won't be able to get to everything. So let's actively use the chat, and any of us can chime in and respond. You have access here to statewide leaders from across the spectrum. So don't be afraid to chime in and access that. So we have our team ready to share information. So Milva, if we can start with Mr. Tilburg's presentation, so he can start informing us with how the law is changing. And Will, the floor is yours.
Okay. Will, are you able to get in?
No, it's not letting me rejoin.
All right. Can you guys hear Will? Can you hear him? All right, Will, why don't you go on? We're on the slide that says, what is the Cannabis Reform Act? So let's try this. Yes, they can hear you.
Okay. All right. So the Cannabis Reform Act, passed by you, delegate, and your colleagues in the General Assembly, was passed in April, and it takes effect fully this weekend. So July 1st, there will be sales at nearly 100 dispensaries across the state. So any individual over the age of 21 will be able to purchase and possess cannabis beginning this Saturday. The Reform Act itself, as you had mentioned, delegate, did a lot of things, including establishing the new Maryland Cannabis Administration, which in this administration is to license and regulate the new industry. Initially, the MCA is converting existing medical operators. If they pay fees that are 10% of their gross revenue, they're able to access the new market. And those fees then are distributed to the Community Reinvestment and Repair Fund for the purpose of funding community initiatives in jurisdictions around the state that have been disproportionately impacted by cannabis prohibition. We've collected the first quarter of those conversion fees. That's $15 million, and those dollars will be first distributed to communities in the state beginning in July or August of this year. And in total, there will be, over the next 18 months, $60 million that are distributed through that Community Reinvestment Fund directly back into communities that had high arrest rates during the criminalization of cannabis. Beyond the reinvestment fund, we're authorized this fall to award additional licenses. So there will actually be up to 220 additional licenses that are available in the state. That's for grower, processor, dispensary. There's also new license categories coming online of on-site consumption and incubator space, which I can talk about a little bit later. And a switch from previously, these applications will be on a pass-fail basis rather than being scored and ranked. And anyone who meets the minimum qualifications will be entered into a lottery for the license. Next slide, please.
We're in the fees.
You're the fees and timing?
Okay. I was going to say, I can't think.
Yeah.
So fees and timing. So the fees for the license application process, which again will begin this fall, September, October of this year, is $5,000 for a standard grower, processor, or dispensary license, and $1,000 for micro licenses. So micro licenses are new categories of businesses that are really targeted for smaller Maryland businesses. For growers, it means growing less than 10,000 square feet of canopy. For processors, it means processing less than 1,000 pounds of cannabis. And for a dispensary, it means they don't have a brick and mortar store, but rather operate a website and a delivery service. So the timing of the application rounds, we are in statute authorized to hold 3 separate rounds. The first of those is to be this fall. In advance of that, we have to provide at least 60 days notice where the application is coming. Here's what the application is. Here's what the requirements are. And that's followed by a 30-day application period. And we have to at NA begin awarding licenses from the lottery by January 1st of 2024. So a very quick timeline for application and award. The second round then will occur no earlier than May of 2024. And then after the second licensing round, MCA will conduct a demand study to see how many more licenses are needed and offer up the third round at that point. Next slide, please.
So we were at the slide that we were at was, if you could just keep it 7, please just keep it there. We were at, you discussed the awards right? Licenses that will be awarded already?
So for awards, you see here that on the far left-hand side, the total number. This is the number of additional licenses that are going to be available within the state over these 3 rounds. You can see we're talking about several hundred additional licenses. Right now, in the medical-only market, there's only 150 businesses. So the number of licenses, I think, will quadruple with the adult use market. And then you see the first round and second round totals by category. I won't go through them in great detail, but you can just see how the awards will be made across these rounds.
Okay, next slide, please.
Yeah. What's really critical to understand, and Chairman Peña-Melnick referenced this earlier, that Maryland is the first state in the country to be having an exclusively social equity round. So that is every license type and category you have to be a social equity applicant in order to apply in the first round. So what does that mean? It means an entity that is at least 65% owned and controlled by one or more individuals who have lived in a disproportionately impacted area for at least 5 of the last 10 years, or they attended a public school in a disproportionately impacted area for at least 5 years, or they attended a 4-year school, college, for at least 2 years, where at least 40% of the individuals who attend the college were eligible for Pell Grants. So what is going to happen is the newly established Office of Social Equity is to evaluate data within the state, arrest data, over a period of time to determine zip codes that meet these requirements for the first 2 bullets, and determine which schools in the state are eligible under the 3rd prong. And that information will be available here in the coming weeks in advance of the application round, so everyone understands what zip codes in the state are eligible as social equity applicants. Importantly, each person is only able to be a part of one application. We've seen in other states with lottery systems, if you're allowed to submit more than one application, some businesses will submit thousands in order to try and game the system. So the state decided to restrict it to one application per license category. Next slide, please.
That's number 9.
Yep, exactly. So the application criteria, again, the applications are going to be reviewed on a pass-fail basis. That is a deviation from previous licensing rounds in the medical program. On top of being a social equity applicant, you will also have to submit a detailed operational plan about how you're going to safely, securely, and effectively grow, process, or dispense cannabis, a business plan that outlines how you're going to have a successful operation, and then a diversity plan. And there'll be information, a rubric that is published by MCA about what specifically we're looking for in each of those categories for you to demonstrate in order to meet minimum requirements. Next slide, please.
10.
And so 10 here very quickly is a preliminary timeline. So again, this weekend is a big weekend, legal sales for the first time in the state of Maryland on July 1st. On the other side of the July 4th weekend, we will be ramping up our education and outreach efforts. So we're partnering with the new Office of Social Equity on in-person and virtual training sessions for interested individuals. Anticipate that September or October, the application period will open up, and then we would be reviewing and conducting the lottery between October and December in order to begin making awards by January 1st, the statutory deadline. And then looking ahead, after May 1st is when the second round is able to be held. Next slide, please. You can actually skip to slide 12.
You want us to go to 12?
Yeah.
Okay, great. We're at 12.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So again, education outreach, this is a really critical component. Cannabis is a complex industry. A lot of that's due to the interplay between federal illegality and state legality and what that means. So we are putting a lot of energy, time, resources into robust education and outreach prior to the licensing round, so that everyone understands what the opportunities are, how you're eligible, how do you apply, and technical assistance with that application process. So the way this is going to work, we will be doing, as you can see on the slide, 3 things. 1, a virtual academy for certified social equity applicants. And that is going to be through Canvas on our website at MCA, tutorials from existing operators, from legal and tax experts on how to develop a business plan, on the diversity plan, all the required parts of the application process. We will then be hosting in-person and virtual events, webinars, training sessions on the application process, how to apply, etc. And also attending various fairs and festivals across the state, including several Latino events in the coming months to get the word out on the application process. The objective of these is to inform folks about the opportunities, to assist applicants or potential applicants with understanding the eligibility requirements, to assist social equity applicants with understanding the timeline, the process, and to connect social equity applicants with the Office of Social Equity and with financial and technical assistance resources that have been put in place by the General Assembly. So this is really critical to the success of the program, is making sure that applicants in disproportionately harmed communities are aware of the opportunities and how they can benefit from them. And I believe that is it. The last slide is just a thank you with additional information. Encourage anyone that has questions to email policy.mmcc@maryland.gov, where our staff will be able to follow up and point you in the direction of additional resources related to the licensing opportunities, as well as consumer education and just what to expect with the new market.
Thank you, Will, and thank you for being flexible. We appreciate it. Unfortunately, things happen, and thank you for being flexible, okay?
Yes, thank you.
And just stay put, and I'm going back to our moderator.
Thank you so very much to both of you for the flexibility, but we'll dive right into continuing the conversation. Delegate, I mean, that's a lot of information. Why does it matter that we're bringing this to the Latino community? Why were you so adamant about that?
I was really adamant about it because usually we have a lack of diversity in the industry. We had a lack of diversity when we created and allowed for the medical cannabis. And you saw that actually the first round, there were, mostly white license holders, right? No African Americans and no Latinos. And we had to go back and fix it. So we wanted to get it right with recreational cannabis, right? We want to make sure that Black and brown people, community that are usually marginalized, right? That do not have the capital, and because this is an all cash business, that they are aware of how to get these licenses, right? Which was why in the law, we created different funds, right? For grants and for loans as well to attract people, and which is why the equity part is so important, here as well.
So important. Special Secretary Martinez, there is so many questions. We already know that the Latino business owner, on top of the language, the culture, there are always challenges. So talk to us a little bit about the resources that your office can offer. What are some technical assistance tools en español? What are some things that either established business can leverage, or a brand new individual que se le mete en la mente, maybe I can grow some marijuana, maybe I can open a little shop. We don't know what our choices are. So can you speak a little bit to what resources exist in your office? And I also love to hear, in general, outside of cannabis, what can your office bring to the Latino business community?
Well, as you all know, I'm pretty new, but from what my understanding is, our office works in collaboration with other offices and other departments. So there's also other individuals who connect, and each department has their form of outreach, if you will. I think one of the efforts and the focuses are going to be to have more culturally competent opportunities so that communities of all kinds of ethnicities and backgrounds can really relate. Outreach such as this, we have to be very what's the word I'm looking for? I think in Spanish and talk in English. It's as this is a new program, And we have a new administration as well, who's very focused in making sure that there is equity. I think that you're going to see some different approaches as to how we connect with our communities and how we relay information, how we share information, and more partnerships, if you will, with chambers and organizations that are connected directly to those communities. So we have an understanding of what it is, what are the impediments they have, there's levels of education, there's way of learning. Some people have difficulty reading. There could be some ways with how we present our information through pictures and understanding to help break things down. So I feel very excited about the opportunities that we have, because the partnerships that we can create along the way are very robust. So that is kind of how I'll answer that until I really get in there. So.
No, and that's incredibly appreciated. We understand you're only 2 days on the job, or you don't even start. You haven't even started.
No, they've been very gracious and given me some information thus far, but Wednesday is my official first day. So yes.
So ni siquiera has empezado. Thank you. We appreciate you accelerating the work and joining us tonight. And Special Secretary, where, if you can put on the chat or maybe email us whenever you can, the website, the details, or maybe on our team, if we can upload it so that folks know where on your office we can identify the resources for technical assistance. That'd be great. Be awesome, because we know that you have a team. And I think Eduardo Hayden, I think you're on. And I know some of your team members are on. If you guys can chime in on the chat and provide the resources que se pueden acceder en español to help our community with technical resources, that would be really helpful. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you.
Will, are you still able to hear us?
Will? 1 second.
Yes, I can.
Awesome. Well, one of the questions that has surfaced is the growers. So could you speak a little bit about the growing eligibility if you want to have a growing business versus a dispensary? Briefly speak to the different types of licenses that are available, so people just have a sense as to a retail shop, dispensary. I know medicinal, dispensary, recreational, growing, processing, so that they have an understanding.
Yes, absolutely. So initially, what we see starting July 1st is there's no longer a medical cannabis grower, processor, dispensary. Instead, and it's somewhat unique across the country, it is a hybrid license where you now are authorized, if you're a grower, to grow medical and recreational cannabis. And same for processors and dispensaries. So what does that actually entail at each level? The growers is exactly what it sounds like. You're physically cultivating cannabis plants. With a standard grow license, you are allowed to grow up to 300,000 square feet of canopy, which is a lot. That would be one of the larger grows in the nation, and that can be indoors in a greenhouse or field cultivation outside. That is, there's not restrictions on that. The state allows you to grow as you see fit. For the processors, those are the entities that take the flower product and convert it into different methods of administration. So it can be edible cannabis products, vape cartridges, tinctures, salves, any number of administration methods that then are distributed to dispensaries, which are the retail establishments. And at dispensaries is what will become akin to a liquor store, where individuals aged 21 or older will be able to purchase the products that have been grown by the growers and manufactured by the processors.
Okay, so there is just a lot of nuances to this, and I appreciate that you and the team, and I know there's a big campaign that's starting to inform the community and educate the community in every language so that people understand all the pieces of it. We have a lot of questions in the chat. One of them in particular came to me privately. Will and Delegate Jocelyn, either one of you can chime in here. There was a question about the social equity piece and the taxes. The fact that there is a community reinvestment and repair fund Can you speak a little bit to how the community organizations that are doing so much of the beautiful work, how they'll be able to access those funds? Any insight into how that money can actually come back into the community?
Yes, so basically, and Will, I'll just speak briefly and then you can go ahead and supplement what I said or complement it. So 35% of the tax revenue will go toward a community reimbursement and repair fund, right? And that will go, 5% will be with the counties, and it will be allocated to each county based on the percentage of revenues that are collected. 50% are going to the local municipalities based on the marijuana sales. 5% will go to a public health fund, which is very important. And 5% will go into a business assistance fund because it's an all cash business. So Will, why don't you take it from there?
Yeah, so I think focusing first, thank you, Delegate, focusing first on the Community Reinvestment and Repair Fund. There's two sources of revenue into that. I mentioned the conversion fees. The existing businesses are going to have to pay up to $2 million to enter the expanded market and have already started paying those fees. So we estimate that $60 million will be into that fund from those conversion fees. On top of that, as the delegate noted, 35% of tax revenue on an ongoing basis is also funneled through that Community Reinvestment Fund. Those dollars, this is somewhat unique compared to other states, go directly to local communities. So there is the new Office of Social Equity will determine, based off of the percentage of arrests in the state that your community was responsible for, you will get that percentage of the pot of money each year when there's a distribution. And the money goes, directly to Baltimore City, directly to Prince George's County, for them to determine at the local level how to distribute those funds to community organizations. So we've already seen some jurisdictions like Baltimore already set up a framework of there's now a commission in the city to determine how to distribute those funds. So it's taking the state out of the equation and saying these local communities were impacted. We're going to put the funds in their hands for how to distribute to low-income initiatives related to repairing the harms of the war on drugs.
Excellent, excellent. No, thank you so much. I think that's wonderful to have it distributed to amongst the different municipalities. All right, we're going to go through some questions on the chat. So if you have not placed your questions on the chat, please do so. Pongan sus preguntas en el chateo para poder comunicarnos con nuestro panel en español, en inglés, como quieran. El panel, ustedes también pueden leerlos to make it a little quicker, a little faster. Feel free to respond as you're seeing the different questions that we have. There's some particular questions about the types of licenses, whether people qualify or don't qualify. Para calificar, cada persona es individual, obviamente. So solamente con una aplicación se determina si puede calificar usted. Let me see here. We have a question about restaurants, Jesse. It says the Latino business community is strong in the restaurant sector. If a restaurateur had an interest to provide it as part of their menu, is that possible? And what would be the process? Any insight into that?
Will, why don't you address that?
No. Did we lose Will?
Hold on 1 second.
May have. We may have. All right.
Why don't you go ahead? Will?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead and repeat the question, Veronica.
If a restaurateur, a business that is already a restaurant, would like to add cannabis to their current menu, is that a feasible option? And what would that process be?
Sure. Thank you for the patience and repeating the question. So there is in the future contemplated an on-site consumption establishment, which under current statute can be a bakery, but broader food establishments, restaurants are not permitted at this time. So you would need a special license type, this on-site consumption, and you are restricted from having actually a full kitchen, although bakeries would be eligible. I do think that this is something that the General Assembly may reevaluate next year. Because we've been asked at the Cannabis Administration to provide a report on best practices related to on-site consumption. So it seems that this is a sort of an open issue, something that may be looked at again in the future.
Got it. Thank you so much, Will. I'm going backwards here. Will licenses for edibles or infused foods, is that the same process as the other applications?
Yes. So there is, in order to manufacture those products, you would need to be a licensed processor within the state. So there's the standard processors and then the micro processors. And so combined, I think it's 200 total licenses that will be up for grabs over the next 18 months or so. But you do need that state processor license in order to manufacture things like edibles.
State processor's license. Okay. And we have some new questions coming in. Will the dispensaries be limited to only the sale of cannabis? Or can we say a beer and wine in a separate section for, say, tobacco or cannabis also be offered and added?
Dispensaries are able to sell non-cannabis products, but there are express restrictions on alcohol and tobacco products being sold at those establishments. So yes, you can sell non-cannabis, but no, alcohol and tobacco are not permitted.
Okay. And could there be what are the restrictions on consumption licenses? Could it be like a smoke lounge or consumption on the spot?
It can be consumption on the spot. Absolutely. That's the intent of it. Smoking within the establishment itself is prohibited. These establishments are subject to the state's clean indoor air law. That was expanded last year to go beyond tobacco smoke to include cannabis smoke. But there are provisions that you could have a smoking patio. And then also within the establishment, you could allow vaping or ingestion like edibles within the on-site consumption site itself.
And then one of the biggest questions that we have seen internally and externally is the grants and the financial resources. So talk to us a little bit, Will, about the funding available, or anyone, Delegate, Special Secretary Martinez, where and how can people access those dollars to expand a business or open a business to leverage this cannabis opportunity?
Go ahead, Will.
Sure. So there is, as the delegate mentioned, there's the Cannabis Business Assistance Fund. And one of the first steps that Governor Moore took upon taking office was releasing funds that the General Assembly had previously appropriated for this, actually distributing them. So $40 million the first week that Governor Moore took over was put into this Cannabis Business Assistance Fund. The General Assembly this year appropriated another $40 million. So beginning July 1st, there will be $80 million in this Cannabis Business Assistance Fund. The Department of Commerce in the state oversees it. Initially, they have the first round of uses of the fund is for existing small minority businesses. So those that are already licensed, but maybe not operational, helping them get operational, because there's still 14 majority minority owned businesses that have been struggling to become operational. So that's that first round. Moving forward, and again, the Department of Commerce is the entity that oversees this. There will be assistance with applying. So I mentioned earlier the fees that are assessed. So helping to defray the cost of the application fees itself, and then also grants and lower or no interest loans to assist with capital build out. So if you are awarded a conditional license through the lottery, you'll then be able to access grants and loans to help operationalize your business, to build it out, actually become operational.
All right, so the grants are contingent, obviously, upon you earning the lottery for the license.
For many, there likely will be application assistance as well, to defray the cost up front for those applying.
Okay.
And
All
that
right.
is important because it's, as I said, it's an all cash business, right? So you can go to a bank and get a loan. So the state is doing it by grants and loans. And just like if you go to one of the dispensaries to buy it, you cannot put it on a credit card, because it's still a Schedule I under the federal government. It has to be cash or debit to be able to buy it as well. It's all cash.
We have one last question on the chat about growers and ownership. I know I saw somewhere 65% ownership, but can we get clarification of the standard growing license? Does it have to be 100% owned? Can it be split?
It has to be
Yes.
split, but go ahead, Will.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the eligibility again for a social equity applicant, that's that first round. Everyone has to be that. Means that 65% of the entity that's applying has to qualify as a social equity applicant, living in one of those disproportionately harmed areas, or having gone to the appropriate school. So that can be one person that holds 65%, or it could be, 5 people that combined hold that majority control and ownership. It is one or more individuals. So there's a lot of different ways to sort of get at that. And it doesn't need to be 100%. It is, again, 65% ownership and control of the entity. So that does allow businesses the opportunity to partner with others who may be able to help provide additional financial resources to help the business get off the ground.
Okay. So there are, perdona, go ahead, please go ahead.
But if I may, am I right, Will, to say that it's 65% ownership by the people who have lived in that community that has been impacted, but that they must have at least lived there for 5 out of the past 10 years. There's a residency requirement, right?
Yes, 5 of the last 10 years, or went for at least 5 years in public school within that area.
Okay.
So we do have a Spanish question. Déjame buscarlo acá. Dice acá. No me quedaron claros. I'm not clear on the eligibility requirements. If I'm an immigrant, I didn't study high school here, am I excluded? So eligibility, I am an immigrant. I did not study high school or college here. Am I not eligible to get this? Can I not get a license?
There is no citizenship requirement within the application process. The eligibility, again, is having lived in one of these disproportionately impacted areas, zip codes around the state. And the difficult part, and I apologize for this, but until the Office of Social Equity is up and running, I can't say which parts of the state, it's their determination. So it's a little vague at this point. In the coming weeks, you'll be able to go to our website and see exactly what zip codes, exactly what parts of the state that will provide greater detail. But it's just, there's 3 prongs. You only need one of them. The first is having lived in one of these to be determined areas for at least 5 of the last 10 years. That's got nothing to do with where you may have gone to public school, or if you went to public school or not, or college. So it's purely about living in the disproportionately impacted community for a period of time.
Okay, so el punto, Emanuel, tienes que revisar claramente, en particular tu situación. And something important that needs to be acknowledged, the federal law is different than the state law. So to be clear, we are not espousing, recommending anything that can jeopardize anyone. So every single person has a very unique situation with their particular immigration status. So if you're DACA, DAPA, TPS, green card, resident, undocumented, whatever your situation is, you need to make your own decisions, and you need to consult an immigration attorney.
Correct.
So that you don't jeopardize your situation in any way. So please hear that very, very clearly. Having Maryland legalizing marijuana July 1 does not change that the federal law does not legalize marijuana. Entiendan eso delicadamente, que eso está separado. Okay, Delegate, I don't know if you want to clarify that or say anything else.
No, you said it beautifully.
Listo, listo,
Beautifully.
listo.
There's
I
would
one
also
question there, if I may, about the money.
Por favor.
It says, if I apply and I'm not qualified, I will lose my money application, 1,000 and 5,000. So do they lose, Will, the application fee if they don't qualify, if they're found that they don't qualify for it?
So this is really important. Thank you. I'm glad this question was asked. So one thing that I did not mention is that in advance of the application process itself, a step that we are taking is allowing individuals to verify their status as a social equity applicant. So for 60 days before the application period itself, you will be able to submit documentation and get confirmation about whether you qualify or not. So no one should be going into the application process itself
Blind.
because we do not want people to be applying if they're not eligible. We want everyone to understand the rules and whether they qualify before the application period itself. So in the coming weeks, we're going to have more information about that registration process, about how you can, sort of similar to like a streamlined MBE certification, where you would submit documentation about a lease for your apartment or your school transcripts, and then it would be reviewed and you would be approved, and you would know before you're submitting any money whether you're eligible.
And one of the important things to know, this is all moving at the speed of light. It's not even July 1. We have Special Secretary Yolanda Martinez hasn't even started her job. Will is still moving. There's positions that haven't been filled. His own agency still not fully stood up. So the website, the information is all still being created. So I need you to pause for a second and understand that probably for the first time in the history of ever, Latinos are early to something. Estamos preparados. We are ahead of it. And this is all because Delegate Jocelyn Peña-Melnick campaigned for us to have this law and for us to be ahead of it before July 1. So not only are we ahead of it, you now have this opportunity that we're all thinking about. So I know we're getting close to the end. So I want two things. I want to invite you guys to continue to follow the website because it's going to be updated daily, lots of information. Keep in touch with all of these panelists on their social platforms, on their LinkedIn, on their organization's websites. All that information will be updated. But I'm also going to give the floor to each one of them to give us a closing statement, to just close us out and just motivate us to all make a lot of money and take care of our community, obviously. So we'll start with Special Secretary Yolanda Maria Martinez, who started her job before her job started. So, Secretaria, por favor.
Muchísimas gracias. Thank you. I just want to just take a moment to thank Veronica again for this, opportunity and always being at the forefront for not only Latino businesses, but for small businesses overall. Delegate Jocelyn Peña-Melnick, you are a warrior. You are someone who looks out for everyone and tireless, and we're grateful to have you in your leadership. Thank you so much. Madeline Martinez with the Legislative Latino Caucus, thank you so much because you also are just someone who is extremely impassioned and always there whenever needed for whatever cause it is. And we thank you for that. Will Tilburg, I want to thank you as well for your expertise and for just sharing the wealth of knowledge that you have and making it digestible and easier to process, and really appreciate the time you took to talk with me earlier today as well. So thank you. This is an exciting time. We are in an absolutely pivotal moment where we have this opportunity in our state of Maryland with the leadership of Governor Moore and the team that he's assembled to do some amazing things. not just as Latinos, but as a state overall. So initiatives such as these, who have honestly really have affected the disenfranchised communities overall, there's an opportunity now to turn the table to be something that is positive and something that it will build communities and will support communities. So I'm very excited to be part of this initiative, to be part of this conversation. And I know that with our team at GOSBA, that we will also pursue and understand more how we can be of support as things start to become clearer and as this process progresses. So thank you so much again for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you very much, Special Secretary. Really appreciate it. Director Will, can you let us know how you'd like to wrap up? I know you're moving at the speed of light and you have so much on your plate, but it's exciting between the licenses and the resources. We'd love to hear how you'd like to close us out.
Yeah, thank you. And again, thank you for allowing me to be here tonight. Sorry for the difficulties in rejoining. And I will offer here to join any other event in the future, to continue to talk about this issue. For more information, I think that's where I'll really end things. On our website, it is, which is cannabis.maryland.gov. It's updated really daily at this point. You can see there, one, from a consumer perspective, the existing dispensaries that you'll be able to visit beginning on July 1st, where they are around the state, and as well as a wealth of information about safe and responsible cannabis use. For a lot of us, we haven't used, maybe not used in a long time or never have before, and it is a drug with deleterious effects. So understanding to start low and go slow, and safe storage of products. There's a lot of health and safety information that we're updating. And then for those interested in the business licensing process, if you click on the adult use FAQs on our website, there is a sign-up list where you provide your name and email address, and we send out to that distribution list any information. So when we're doing an outreach event, when we're going live with our virtual academy, when Commerce has more information on the Cannabis Business Assistance Fund, that population that has expressed an interest receives updates. So you don't need to check our website. You can get on that list. So I would encourage anyone that's interested to go to cannabis.maryland.gov, click on the adult use FAQs, and then there's a link in there to have your name and email address added to the list going forward. And with that, I thank you all again for the opportunity to be here tonight.
Thank you so very much, Director. Really appreciate the flexibility. And again, apologies for that snag. Really, thank you so very much. Delegate Jocelyn, our leader, por favor.
I want to say thank you for being flexible. I have never experienced what I experienced today. I have heard about it, read about it, but we persisted. And I know that some of you have asked, are we going to be able to share the link? We have to see if we can clean it up before it's posted. We can leave it out there with what happened, but thank you for being patient. They didn't stop us, and Veronica didn't get shaken. She continued. Wonderful leader, thank you. And Maria Martinez, so honored to work with you and so happy that you're with you where you are. You're so deserving. And Will, my guy, you were Gumby tonight. Thank you for being so flexible. And to our wonderful, Maria and Milva and Madeline, thank you for your generosity. I just want to say, look, we put this together. It may not be perfect because we don't have all the answers, but you have the information, right? And you have it, like Veronica said, early, before it even goes into effect, so that our community can have access. So what is important today? The most important things to remember, if you use it personally, that you cannot use it in public spaces because you're going to get fined. That if you drive and you're under the influence, it's illegal to do that. It's like alcohol. That if your employer wants to test you, that they can still test you and fire you, okay? So just be careful, and that, you should look at the public health aspect of it. Nevertheless, if this is something you want to consume, as Will said, start low, go slow. If you're going to go into this business, well, guess what? We have resources for you. We have grants. We have money to help you start it. We have technical support for you. The Department of Commerce will have money, technical support. Maria's office also, they will be able to help you and give you support. Will is amazing. I know him for many years. If you have any question, he can direct you to someone that can answer it and how to put the application, right? So you have the information you need. And thank you for being here. We're so grateful. And Veronica, thank you for having such a caring heart and for doing such amazing work to educate and inform our communities that are marginalized. Thank you so much.
No, es un placer. Es un placer to be here with you guys tonight. It's been said a couple of times, thank you to the team that put this together. This was done pro bono by everyone that is here today. Maria Pilar Rodriguez, a special shout out. She's using her company to give the free interpretation. So make sure you walk the talk, folks. So if you ever need to get an interpreter, Maria Pilar Rodriguez, NPR Business Solutions, also representing the Maryland Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Muchísimas gracias. So special thank you to the Maryland Latino Legislative Caucus. Thank you to the Cannabis Administration. Thank you to my own team, Cool and Associates, for giving me hours of time to get this going. And we're here because this matters. We know it's a circle, that if we don't have these folks doing this, we don't lift the boat and we don't all get better. So por favor, let's be smart about how we're spending our energy. I think I saw in the chat the intentional efforts. We agreed to do this because we know that if we do better, we all do better. So let's educate ourselves. This is huge, pero también vienen con riesgos. So please make sure you educate yourself. Have fun, just like you have your glass of wine, just like you have your beer. There's risk. So make sure your children, make sure your neighbors are informed so that you don't have a problem. Make sure your community members can capitalize on the resources. So this is great, pero vienen con consecuencias. So vamos a informarnos. Let's get informed. So to the panelists, thank you. We know you're busy. We know that you could be elsewhere, and we know you have a team. The fact that you, as the bosses of your organizations, gave us the time, allocated your team members to give us these resources speaks volume to not just what you believe, but what the governor and his cabinet believes. So we as a Latino community feel appreciated. The folks that are here, 50, 60 people, thank you, thank you, thank you. We know a lot of media shared it, a lot of partners shared it, so keep spreading the word and keep posting your questions. We'll keep giving you answers, and we'll keep helping each other out. So muchísimas gracias por todos, and cualquier cosa, let's keep talking. Muchísimas gracias and good night.
Good night, everyone.